Frank in distress.
Frank. All right.
I'm so emotional about this episode. I don't know what to do.
How emotional are you? Are you on the levels of Topol to Hoshi? Where are you sitting right now?
His vow of stoicism is on record, Captain.
Human emotion is admirable for this episode.
Anyway, welcome to Star Trek, our ongoing review of Star Trek episodes, and we are catching up with Enterprise's second episode, Fight or Flight, which features T'Pol having a crisis, Archer not really knowing what he's doing, and a ship full of Capri Sun bodies, as I've been told that's how it's supposed to be said.
Still not correct. But
no,
continue.
okay. Capri Sun? Anyway, distress. Ship
Capri Sun.
in distress. Okay, where do we start with this episode? How about, let's say that this was written by Brannon Braga and Rick Berman. So this isn't even
that explains the
external
low bar
writing.
of quality.
Yes. This is
Manny Kodo, save us.
yeah,
Please
give
God.
a couple of things. But however, there is a silver lining to this episode. This was directed by Alan Croker, who, if you don't know the name, he directed such great episodes, and I genuinely mean this, great episodes like Sacrifice of the Angels, Call to Arms, What You Leave Behind, The Year of Hell, Bride of Chaotica, and Endgame, and loads of other ones. He's got a good credentials behind him. What he had to do to look at this script, and Rick Berman had to convince him God knows what, but there is that.
I need you to shoot the death of this slug like it's, Vice Admiral Janeway dying in the Borg Queen's, assimilation chamber. I need the exact same level of drama and pathos. And he said, buddy, I don't care. Why would the audience care?
So where do you want to start with this one? Like, this is
At the end.
This is the Hoshi episode. This is also the Archer episode, but it starts with Archer on all four. Well, it starts with Hoshi in the slug, but essentially also starts with. Thanks, Frank. It also starts with Archer.
This is a good episode. Screw you guys. That's all I have to say.
On all fours in front of T'Pol, and Hoshi walks in and goes, "Hey, am I interrupting something? Oi, Where can we start with this? This was kind of an episode where not a lot happens in about 40 minutes.
Okay, so this is the one of the episodes that taps into Enterprise as a series, their potential. This is okay. Stay with me here. This is like the Year of Hell version of Voyager, where you see what could happen if they were actually stranded, if they didn't actually refill their torpedoes every week and their shuttlecraft every week. This was it's classic exploration at the beginning of it. At the end of it, the other piece of bread in the sandwich is they don't actually win on their own. They need help doing it. Like, they don't just reroute power and then win the fight one-on-one. And then sprinkled in between, it's them getting their footing on, okay, what are first contact procedures? Because they were allowed to leave space dock without them. And so they're bumbling their way through. And of course, it's not elegant, but it is a look at, well, what if humans actually achieved warp drive, but then had to figure out the rest on route? So I do like the early season potential of, and it's also the 90s sitcom problem of, they had no cell phones, aka transporter. They can't just beam out of there. They still got to figure out how to get there with little time in between, and that adds an element of danger with the ship coming. They have to get back to the shuttle pod and all that stuff. So there is it is a little Sunday morning cartoonish where it's like Archer's too much of a good boy.
I thought you were just going to end up with Archer's too much.
Yeah, well, that's good.
He kind of is this episode.
Go on, keep moaning about how bad it is.
No, I will.
It was. I have here actually television critic Bobby Bryant, who was writing for a publication known as Knight Ridder, not Knight Rider. It's a portmanteau of Knight and Ritter, two owners of the thing. Said that this was among the 4 best episodes of season 1. This article was written after episode 4.
No.
So
Oh. Okay. I was about to come up with like, no, there's the Andorian incident, there's shock. No, okay.
So,
go on.
you know what? These are the episodes of Enterprise that make me scratch my head, right? Because the Vulcans land in Montana in 2063, right? And it's gonna take a while for Earth to get off its, it got fucking blown on its ass. World War III was real rough. Lots of people dead. Massive ecological devastation. So let's give them, let's say, like 40 years to get back onto an even keel, right? And then you've got like another 50 years before Enterprise takes place, right? And in that time, you're being shepherded by the Vulcans, who are a long-standing exploration race. They've been exploring since at least the 1940s in terms of like the actual timeline, probably like long before that. And in all of that time, they didn't come up with the idea of we should probably bring an engineer or a doctor on a away team when we aren't getting responses from people whose communications array may be down or whose crew may be dead. We'll bring a security officer and a translator. Okay, that's half an away team. Half of it. And in the face of like this ghoulish scenario, which I think is one of the few things I actually like about the list. This is one of those things I love in video games, is when you come into a building, you load in, and then it's just this fucked up scenario, and you're like, what the hell did I just walk into? I don't want to be around this scenario. I don't want to know what led up to this. I don't want to know what the last 5 minutes of these people's lives were like. And then in a video game, you pick up like an audio log and it would explain it, and you'd be like, ooh, boy.
Also, all you have is the circle of the flashlight, which adds to the suspense.
Yeah. And it's like, the responses that they have to this make me feel like, what were you guys learning in Starfleet? You didn't learn to tap into a computer system and read the logs? Like,
I think
this is the kind of thing that if I was in charge of Starfleet training back at the inception of the organization, I'd be like, hey guys, if you ever find yourself on a derelict spacecraft and you have no idea what happened, maybe check the computers.
I think the intention...
Maybe run a scan.
Yeah, I think the intention here is to sort of show that, like, oh, we're all just learning along the way, but I think most people that actually live in the real world know that most organizations have, like, a billion protocols, like, how to deal with hypothetical situations, and, like, yeah, if, you look at NASA and you look at the military, like, they have, like, a ton of training for things like this, and they kind of, like, it does feel like this is more like a group of like ragtag wannabes who want to go out and pretend to be Starfleet, aka like Prodigy, rather than like, oh yeah, this is humanity's best going out there. It doesn't, like, I get what you like saying, the tension's there, the atmosphere's there, it's like there, but unfortunately the competence isn't.
Yeah, because it's like, if I think about, because the cool thing about Enterprise and like the actual cool concept of the prequel is that what is the in-between state going from astronaut to actual TOS Starfleet officer? Because that's a big gap, right? You go from, we need EV suits, we need like all these like various, it's dangerous to live in space. We can't even have grav plating. We don't have that kind of technology. To TOS, which is basically space age shit, right? It's fucking beautiful. All you need is just your phaser, your tricorder, and your set. But I look at the way that Archer and co handle themselves on that ship, and I think modern day astronauts, who are usually like doctors and Air Force colonels and trained individuals, would have more reasonable, smart responses to this, where they would think about, hey, what should I do in this situation? Instead of, we're going to go onto that ship, have a look around, and then leave. And T'Pol is actually right to call them out on, like, the complete, off the cuff, we're just going to do things by impulse thing. But she doesn't point out that if you're going to do this, at least do it right. I feel like T'Pol would have been like, you didn't think to check the computers, maybe check and see if they had a phone number written down on the back of someone's console. Call mom every now and then.
T'Pol was essentially sitting in the background waiting for Crichton to enable smug mode. You know, she's just basically like, I'm waiting to say I told you so, but she never does it. She has a little bit of class this episode, T'Pol. She
restrains herself, which I appreciate for her. But it's like, there is the glimmer of a good episode in here about your first contact being not what you wanted and not what you expected. But it's just kind of underplayed and mishmashed with, like, it just makes me ask questions that I shouldn't be asking in the second episode. By the equivalent point in, say, Voyager or DS9, we're already starting to drill down into character specifics about why Kira was a part of the Bajoran Resistance, or what drove B'Elanna Torres to be part of the Maquis, and what's her temperament like. Here, I'm presented with Hoshi's character arc, which is that she is kind of a scaredy cat, which, guess what, it's a scary situation. She gets a pass on that. But instead of leaving this with an idea of, man, Hoshi's so smart and so strong and so capable, I'm like, why are you even in Starfleet? You don't seem to enjoy it. You don't seem to have any verve for the unknown. You seem like, what do you enjoy about this process? We are even robbed of, like, a cool scene where she gets to talk about talking to an alien species, like, in a really high stress environment and coming through the other side. That's a big moment for her. We got, like, to take another comparison point, Strange New Worlds is episode 2, Children of the Comet. You get to see Uhura kind of revel in what she managed to pull the rabbit out of the hat and come out on top.
Yeah.
But here, Hoshi, she does it, and then it's like, well, now the episode's done. Like, I feel like there should have been another 5 minutes of wrap-up to really delve into, hey, guess what? This is what Hoshi actually enjoys about being in Starfleet. Is, yeah, it's terrifying. It's a high-stakes, high-pressure environment, but I came through the other side, and I am a stronger, better person for it. But Enterprise isn't really interested in talking about Hoshi as a character. This is like one of maybe 4 episodes I think that she gets to focus on. And I think at least half of them are basically this same concept done again. It's like, no, I want more in-depth character development, but I'm asking for a lot when it's the Jonathan Archer show.
They do cover part of that in the episode previous. She didn't really want to join, but she was sucked in because she was interested, titillated by the languages, and so it was kind of against her will. And so it being the literal episode before, that's fine for me. Frank, you said one word so far.
One too many for this episode. No. I agree, because in hindsight, we can look at Strange New Worlds and say, well, see, they got it right. They took this formula and they improved upon bits and pieces of it. Because you think about it, Starfleet's first big deep space mission. We're launching the NX-01. Here we go. The best of the best is going to be on it. I'm pretty sure everybody should have at that point put on EV suits and gone through training and known, yes, you're going to put a pistol right here on your hip and you're going to need it in a situation where you're beaming over, and not sit there and question it and have your captain put it on you and go, but yeah, before we go, about my quarters, I don't like the view, and there's this draft and the noise on the floor. It's weird, and there's dog pee for some reason, like, it's not that they were trying to set up Hoshi as a character that you weren't going to like. She was supposed to be the naive, young freshman with all these
the
more
everyman
established...
degree, yeah.
Exactly. But I think they tweaked that a little too hard in some places. And Linda Park even said, hey, look at my journey from start to end of Hoshi. This is the floor. This is where she started, and then she progressed. And there are parts of it, I agree, that you certainly take yourself out of it and go, but should they really be doing that? But they, for a graduation episode from the pilot, when you take TNG and the entire first season, basically, and to your point, Ida, when you look at Voyager, or you look at DS9, or even U-Stars, you look at these other areas where we need to start looking at the other characters and find their footing, find their motivation, find their voice. This one does try to do that for you with several little moments with little people. And you do get to see a lot of the ship, which we talked about during the viewing that we loved because it's got that submarine feel where it's
Yeah, I really
real.
like
It's
that.
not it's not a set. It's not a fake. I'm not watching a TV show. These guys are actually like on a futuristic sub,
Very
and it's
physical loading of torpedoes and
Yeah,
displacement. Yeah, I
yeah.
really like that. Red October, I think, was mentioned when we watched along.
that kind of stuff is sexy because we never, in the age of CG and where everything else is done with, green screens, practical effects for the most part are a rarity. And it's so refreshing to see a full set of practical effects, even if it's not used a lot, just to be able to see the real tactical room and the real torpedo bays. That's good stuff.
I have to think about the episode Obsession from TOS, where
Good episode.
they get mauled to death, multiple deaths from a fucking cloud because they stare at it for 25 seconds as it slowly lifts its way across the planet and then absorbs them. And, you watch it like the first time, you're either rolling your eyes or you're yelling at the screen. You're like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You point your phaser and you press the button. That's all you got to do. And so they're trying to show an Enterprise, okay, well, what if they didn't have any of the training? What if we pull back? They're going to have to struggle. This is the first baby steps into space. It's hard to show that progression without sometimes being like, okay, they're going to have to do some really dumb stuff. And maybe the audience won't buy it, but we have to show them struggling. Like, how can you pull back from stupid moments in other episodes of Star Trek without going all the way off the deep end? So it is sort of a balancing act. And yeah, they should be more professional. They should have certain things handled, but I think that's the premise of early Enterprises. They don't have that stuff handled, and we have to see how they flounder.
All right, before we...
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that assessment. I just feel like there should be a higher baseline. Like, that's what I kind of feel, is that, like, I shouldn't be looking at it and thinking I would literally... And I'm not a trained astronaut. I work in retail, but I would at least think to tap on a few computers.
You have more training. You have more preparation for your retail job than Hoshi did for being a Starfleet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's also a case of it's very easy for me as an audience member to say that, and you're taking into emotional states, stuff like that. That is a different scenario, but it's just a case of like, this is an issue that crops up a lot in Enterprise, is that they want to pull on the we're inexperienced card, and that's a good card to play in the prequel because it's your big differentiator. But I feel like they overplay it to a degree. Some episodes do better than others.
I also think it's just our blind spots, because I have the same criticisms about Discovery, and you guys will defend it. And then, when the script is flipped, because I like what they're doing with Enterprise, and I want to defend it too. So I think it's just a little bit of our own bias.
Not necessarily wrong.
We're all human, after all. How about let's move on to best.
Spock would find that racist.
Would he? He's half human after all.
That's what he says in.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Okay, how about let's go for our best and worst moments. I'm going to start with our new guy to the audience. Frank, go for your... Let's do worst moments first. Frank, what was your worst moment of this episode?
God. I know it was metaphorical, and I know it was supposed to be introspective about our character, but anything to do with the fucking slug, man. I mean, come on. But do I have to go with the slug? Some of the writing, the dialogue writing, was still not there yet. And it was kind of apparent because you want to do Mystery Science Theater 3000 with it. But I mean,
very easy to do.
It is, but and I'm being nice to it because it is the second real episode of a new series that's tackling a new era of Trek that up until then had never been thought of, done, what have you. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. And I will say the introduction music, the opening credits are horrendous.
I mean, that's a
and
cheat.
You
can
live
say
with
that
it for
every
4 more
week.
years.
Surprise. All right. Otto, worst moment.
Archer during lunchtime. Now that is a level of unprofessionalism that it's like, I think Shatner would have handled it perfectly because
Yeah.
you know
Actually,
Shatner in big, bombastic, boisterous moments, but when something's eating at him, he does understated really well, which he never gets credit for unless Shiporn is playing him. So he basically Archer was up to a 9 with his level of agitation and dysfunction, and he should have played it at more as a 4, where your underlings can see that it upsets you enough to where you have to turn around, but not so that you're the most irrational, raving madman in the room. So I thought that was, I don't know if out of character because people love piling on Archer, but it was too much. He had to dial that back, I think.
Stars.
Oh god, all the good ones have been taken. I would have to say the 70s sitcom feel of the scene where he's like scrabbling around on the floor to find what's making a squeak in his quarters. I was like, do we really have to waste time on it? Doesn't even come back. It doesn't even come back in the rest of the episode with a resolution as to what it was.
I think it does when they get the shit fixed and it goes, oh, they finally got rid of the squeak or something like that. But yeah, in context of this episode,
in Trek history.
Yeah, what an incredible breakthrough.
Yeah.
They fixed the squeak in my chair. I don't give a fuck, Archer. But it's just like, a lot of the time you're meant to be like siding with Archer and being like, man, I'm so excited. Like I want to go and see strange new worlds and see loads of new aliens and like shake their hand and be with us, exchange stories and maybe touch each other's butts a little bit. But so often I'm like, why would anyone want to interact with you? You're such a fucking dweeb. You can't act professionally in front of anyone. Your Vulcan first officer is embarrassed to be around you. Like, we're meant to be having a briefing about what the ship's going to be doing for the next fucking month, and you're like, oh, the squeak in my quarters. Like, just, by all means, keep on doing it, but have the conversation and stop acting like such a weirdo. I just get tired of it. Best scene, I would probably have to say...
Idle, what's your worst moment?
We'll get to best.
Oh, okay, we're doing this staggered. Fair enough. Yeah.
That's fine. No, yeah, we'll do staggered. Listen, like, I'm all for scenes where people prove their worth in tough situations, but I think they did Hoshi dirty in this whole episode. Like, she is an accomplished translator. They need to show how good she is, and I get that people get flustered in panic situation, but I think she had the moment. They had a moment for her to have the genius moment and come out and say, "I know all this language. I've finally worked it." Instead, she kind of half sort of bumbled away through the conversation, which didn't have enough context coming back for us to feel like it was her hero's journey. Like, we wanted her hero's journey. She had the fall where she went on to the ship and saw the dead bodies and had like a little anxiety attack about it, and I get that. That's a good angle to take, but I don't think it was executed well enough to make Hoshi seem like she was competent at her job. It seemed like she kind of just made it, as opposed to sort of, like we said before, Uhura in Children of the Comet, where she came out shining in glory. It was very much different, and I think they could have made Hoshi better than she was, more than the sum of her parts. Like, she needed more on that, definitely.
There should have been a little coda at the end of the thing where, like, you get to see her talking with the captain in, like, fluent thing.
Absolutely,
and he says, he compliments her and says, hey, well done on doing that, like, or maybe he empathizes with her. It's like a moment of actual alien connection.
Yeah. They made it too much about Archer's.
Underappreciated.
This was the viewpoint of Archer. Archer's viewpoint of Hoshi was in this episode more than actual Hoshi's development, which was such a shame, really. It's more like Archer going like, just get it done, do it. With Jellicoe, very get it done. I want this report in by the morning, as opposed to
the commanding presence of Jellicoe.
Exactly. Okay, how about let's go best moment and Slim Pickens, but Frank, you're up first.
I don't want to steal anybody's.
Hey, you're up first. That's what you get to do.
Choice.
I've got multiple lined up. This is a great episode.
I will say anything involving John Billingsley. He absolutely chews the scenery up. He shows you what you're in store for years to come with his wit and his delivery. and just that he's alien, but not all the way alien. There's a little glimpse of human and a little glimpse of smartass and a little glimpse of Vulcan and everything else. But he's a highlight. Absolutely. Anytime he's on screen, he's like, okay, cool. I'll pay attention. Hoshi, oh.
Auto.
All right, I'm going to use 2 here. Really make you guys work for it later on. Easy at the beginning. I think even Frank mentioned it when we were watching. The torpedo testing. It's
That's pretty good.
now that is an easy early season Enterprise. We're struggling, blah blah blah, without all the incompetence. That's obviously something that would happen on a ship when they're recalibrating something new. So it's just nice to have a little hint of struggle without like, oh yeah, we'll just power up these phaser banks that we've had working for hundreds of years and then go blow away the inferior alien.
That was actually like one of those instances where it's like, yeah, that's the level of unpreparedness I want, where it's like, this is a big problem, we're unprepared, but we try and you can see Reed is trying.
Yeah,
he
even
is
remarks,
doing
he
multiple
says-
solutions, he's making progress. This is not something I'm prepared for. We don't have the materials, but
Yeah.
I'm working on it, and he gets it. It's like that. He has a more satisfying resolution to his shit than fucking Hoshi does, rather.
And the second one is, I think I mentioned earlier, at the end where they don't solve it by themselves. Like if they would have thrown their little Plinko chips at that ship all day, they never would have destroyed it, and they needed help. And so the resolution of the episode wasn't that they just rerouted power. It was that they had to use human ingenuity and bravery to get someone else to help them.
And
save the day.
humility as well.
Yeah.
Stars.
I would have to say, since our torpedo scenes have already been taken, I would actually say the full revelation of just what's gone on with the alien ship and how fucked up and weird it is, because that's what you kind of you want a bit of genuine alienness, a bit of I don't know what I'm looking at in Star Trek every now and then, because it's like it tickles the brain and you think, man, that's actually truly alien, and it sparks the thing of someone thought about this, someone thought about the human perspective and how best to shock it and how best to appeal to what we find interesting and horrific and like what makes us want to dig in deeper. And seeing a load of corpses strung up and being drained of their chemicals into a big tube, and almost like a spider leaving like a fly in a web so that it can come back and eat it later type thing. Like that's a very cool. Like when Star Trek wants to do horror, it can do it very, very well, especially like cosmic horror and odd species that do things in weird ways. Like we didn't even see the aliens that had done this. We only saw the friendly species that helped them out in the end, which I appreciate. That's a cool little detail, but I think that was a genuinely well executed part of the episode.
Since you guys have stolen every single point I was probably going to make, I will go for actually T'Pol was a rock star this episode. Like she wasn't her condescending self. Even when Archer was on all fours and fucking up, she was still kind of a little bit of the voice of reason. Even when at the dinner table she was like, right, we need to distract this madman and talk about, oh, it's still a nursery. What
That
about
was really
this?
nice of her, actually.
Yeah,
for
she was
T'Pol's
actually quite
baseline.
complimentary. She was like not being the kind of like Vulcan the Vulcan kind of dickheadness here, where she kind of could have taken the upper hand. Instead she was just like, I know what's going on, I know what's happening here, you guys need to work out for yourselves, but let's just get on with it. So this was a good T'Pol moment to show her Vulcan superiority without Vulcan arrogance, I think. Definitely.
Yeah, it's a good blend of the two.
Okay, Stars, we need your final rating. Go on, what is the
All
rating
right,
for this episode?
gentlemen, I need to know how many alien triglobulin Capri Suns out of 10 you would give this episode.
Frank.
I would enjoy poking the straw through and sucking dry 6.1 alien triglobulin Capri Sun strawberry kiwi pouches out of 10.
That was Kiwi. Fantastic. Auto.
I'll give this 7.9 alien triglobulin Capri Sun pouches out of 10. So my baseline metric is always, do I enjoy watching it? And I do enjoy watching this episode. I think there's a lot of good stuff, which I've already gone over. The two big things that hang over it is, yeah, at some point you're like, all right, Hoshi, shut the hell up. You're getting paid to do this job, even though money doesn't exist. Be a little bit professional. And then the second part is it does feel a little bit Sunday morning cartoonish, where it's like, I don't know, too wholesome like at times. I'm not sure exactly.
It all wraps up a little bit too neatly, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so.
All right, stars.
I would give this 4 alien triglobular Capri Suns out of 10.
4.0?
No, 4.0, yes, exactly. 4.0. 4.0001. No, that's not my real rating. I don't want to completely throw off the ratings. If we're taking 5 as like a baseline of I have no strong feelings this way or the other, and 6 is a good. I didn't remember this episode coming in. I'm not gonna remember this episode in a week. I was scraping to find things that I enjoyed. There was occasional glimmers of interesting dialogue and cool concepts, and yeah, this feels like something that should be in an early Enterprise thing. But I wasn't like glued to the screen thinking, man, I really want to know what happens next. That's like, I think of how I react in Discovery or Voyager or DS9 or TNG, where it's like, I really am paying attention to what these characters are talking about because it's interesting. It's about the human condition. It's like, this is like scintillating stuff. Here I'm like, yeah, that sure is some stuff that's happening. It is happening. I'm here watching it. It will be over in 45 minutes or less.
Listen, we've got a lot more Enterprise episodes to go. I feel like this is going to be your end of a lot of them. This was an episode, it suddenly happened.
Carbon Creek can't come soon enough.
All right. Personally, I think Auto's talked me up to a 5.5. I was a 5. I'm going to give him half a point there. I think I'm up to a 5.5. I think there was some good stuff here, but there was a lot of just like, oh yeah, this happened. There it is. But overall, we have all given this an average of 5.9, which that sits at the lower end. I think we did Past Pro. It does better than Parallax last week, which did a 5.6. So
I think we have a hard time utilizing the entire spectrum. Usually we kind of stick between like the 4 and 9 range, where like sometimes we forget just how bad episodes can be.
I don't think anyone has ever given it a 10. We did for some
There'll
Strange New Worlds episodes, but yeah, there'll be some 10s, so we're going to get some TNG. But thank you everyone for joining us. We will be back in a couple of weeks for TOS's Charlie X. If you want to watch...
Oh, God!
Easy.
That'll get the 10.
Oh, there you go. We'll be back for Charlie X in a couple of weeks' time. However, if
X
you want...
means 10.
Yes, if you want to check out... Just
X
like Nemesis.
Means, 0. X means unmarked.
God
X
damn it,
means
let me promote
take
this
it
channel,
back
damn
and
it.
do it again.
If you want to check out more stuff, please go to our new website, trektie.me. Go there and you can see all the links to our Twitter, to our YouTube, to our Twitch channel. So that's trektie.me. There you go, I spelled it out for you. Put that in any browser, get links to everything you need to get to our Twitch, to our YouTube, to everything. Come watch us live. Come join our Discord, all that palaver. But for now, we will see you next time. Ta-ra! Cut you guys off. Oh, who wants to watch Charlie X then?
No, I'm not doing that tonight.